Deep within the quiet monastery of Constantinople, Anna Komnene holds a quill, recalling the past by the flickering candlelight. She was once the precious jewel of the empire, yet in the end she could only keep company with parchment. Tonight, let us follow the tip of her pen into that restrained and sorrowful Byzantine dream. People only see her exile in later years, yet forget she was once the brightest star at the height of the imperial palace. Anna Komnene, a woman who reshaped power through history. In this story that needs no great effort to remember, listen to her complicated feelings toward her father and the empire. Close your eyes, and in the calm narration, feel the silence that has crossed 1,000 years. If imperial power was a fantasy, then her dream shattered in exceptional quiet. Anna Komnene recorded the glory of her age, and buried her own ambitions along with it. Tonight, by the softly flickering fire, let us step into her real life. In this gentle historical account, find your own peace and relief. Inside an extremely cold monastery chamber in Constantinople, a faint lamp flickers late into the night. Seated beneath it is a thin yet still upright old woman, her fingers stained with ink that will never wash away. This woman known as Anna Komnene was once the most noble princess of the Byzantine Empire. Tonight, by the softly flickering fire, let us enter her real life through a story you do not have to struggle to remember. She once firmly believed she would become empress of the empire, yet at this moment, her only realm was the thick stack of parchment before her. She was recording her father's great achievements word by word, as if by doing so she could reclaim the throne that had long been seized by her younger brother. Why write a biography for someone who exiled her? Beneath her restrained writing, how much uncooled ash remained hidden? How did a woman who lost everything in the game of power end up becoming the sole interpreter of her era? Now, let your breathing grow slow and steady as we pass through the golden walls of Constantinople and return to the moment her dream began. Anna was born in the most luxurious chamber of the imperial palace, lined with expensive purple silk. This special color signaled that from birth, she was meant to inherit the crumbling empire. Her father Alexios I loved her without limit, promising her supreme authority even when she was an infant. Raised in such an extraordinary glow, Anna grew into the most learned woman in all of Constantinople. Yet the crack in fate appeared in 1087, the year her younger brother John was born. Under Byzantine law and tradition, which favored male heirs, Anna's right to the throne curled and blackened like dry leaves licked by flame. She was forced to watch the crown that once belonged to her slowly shift toward a brother she considered utterly mediocre. The pain of this loss did not make her lash out in anger, instead, it taught her to disguise herself with greater elegance. She observed her father's hesitation in the shadows, watching every shift in the wind within the court. Power to her was not merely desire, but a fundamental recognition of her own self-worth. When that sense of worth was shattered by her brother's cries, the peace within her dissolved, replaced by an almost obsessive restraint. Anna was no delicate woman who only wrote poems in the garden. To reclaim the throne, she plotted a palace coup so secretive it stood out even in Byzantine history. She allied with her own mother, and even risked everything alongside her husband to challenge her gravely ill father. In those late-night conspiracies, Anna displayed a coldness beyond her years, acting like a skilled chess player placing each piece with precise calculation. But she underestimated the power of blood ties, and the seemingly quiet and reserved brother John. As her father Alexios lay on his deathbed, Anna attempted one final strike, only to find the generals who had sworn loyalty to her defecting before dawn. The weight of falling from the peak peaked the moment her father drew his last breath. She received no coronation as empress, only a cold exile order from her brother, filled with pity yet utterly unyielding. She lost not only the empire, but the last trace of affection in her father's heart. On the day she was escorted from the imperial palace, Constantinople was covered in steady rain, washing away the remaining gold leaf from the streets. Anna sat in the swaying carriage, taking one last look at the palace she once thought within her grasp. From that day on, she never set foot inside again. During the first few years of her imprisonment in the monastery, Anna's soul drifted in empty nothingness. There were no crowds of servants, no noise of power, only the mechanical ringing of bells at dawn and dusk. Such loneliness could have destroyed any proud soul, but one late night, Anna Komnene picked up her pen once more. She realized that although her brother had stolen her present, she could steal his past. She began writing the Alexiad, ostensibly to praise her father, yet in reality rebuilding her own empire on parchment. She used meticulously crafted Greek to describe the battles her father had fought, the deceit and intrigue of diplomatic halls. She poured immense care into choosing every adjective, trying to slip subtle contempt for her brother between the lines. This act of writing became her only salvation in later years, her ultimate weapon against exile. She wrote of the arrival of the Crusaders, of the panic those Western knights stirred in Constantinople. With calm, professional, and faintly sorrowful prose, she preserved every breath of that turbulent age. As the words slowly accumulated, she found the hatred in her heart gradually fading. Writing acted like an ancient form of alchemy, turning her sharp pain into deep and far-reaching silence. As Anna wrote her history, she seemed to split into a godlike figure looking down from above, watching her younger self from years ago. She wrote of the purple silk that surrounded her birth, of long-dead rivals, of her most sincere desires. In the still of night, she could almost hear the whispers of ancient ghosts outside the monastery walls. She was no longer a politician who would stop at nothing for the throne, but a compassionate chronicler. She realized that Byzantine imperial power would eventually crumble like sandcastles, and only the ideas she recorded would cross 1,000 years. This shift in understanding gave Anna's later years a cold and noble radiance. She began revising her work frequently, not only to perfect details but also to find balance between the lines. She recorded not just triumphs, but the struggle and helplessness of humanity in the face of irresistible forces. This sorrowful tone ran through the entire history, becoming the final essence of Anna's character. She often wrote late into the night, stopping only when her wrist ached too badly to hold the quill, to offer a short prayer before the icon of the Virgin Mary. This process of self-redemption in solitude was long and quiet, like the Nile flowing silently in the night. She finally made peace with the part of herself that had failed, turning all unfulfilled ambition into deep ink marks on parchment. When Anna finished her final passage, she was an old woman nearly merged with the shadows. She looked at the heavy stack of parchment on her desk, feeling no wild joy, only complete relaxation. She knew the Alexiad would live on, even longer than the Komnenian dynasty itself. All her affection, ambition, and unspoken sighs in this world had found their final home. In her last days, Anna often sat in the monastery courtyard, staring blankly at the withered grapevines. She no longer asked for news from the court, nor cared who rose or fell in favor. For her, reality no longer mattered, what mattered was the truth she had written with her own hand. In that truth, she remained the princess running through the imperial palace, still her father's proudest daughter. On an early morning, as the first ray of sunlight fell through the monastery window, she closed her eyes quietly. She took with her all regret, yet left behind a complete, magnificent, and deeply detailed portrait of an age. The bells of Constantinople rang out once more, as if mourning the passing of an empress who had never been crowned. She vanished into the shadows of history, yet because of her quill, she stood forever at the edge of the light. Today, Anna Komnene's manuscript rests quietly in display cases of the world's great libraries, examined by later generations. Through those elegant and sorrowful words, we can still touch the soul that stood one step from the summit yet finally returned to ordinariness. With the cost of her entire life, she taught us that power may be fleeting fireworks, but recording and reflection are eternal starlight. As you lie in bed tonight, thinking about the gains and losses in your own life, perhaps you too can follow Anna's example, writing them down as a piece of history to soften the sharpest pain. All grand turbulence eventually returns to this most simple and profound peace. The wind outside the window now seems to carry a Byzantine sorrow, gently soothing your mind. Let go of unfinished dreams, and let go of glory that has already passed. Let Anna's quill lead you into a golden field, into an eternal night without strife. Your breathing grows lighter, your body heavy and relaxed, as if falling into a sea of purple silk. May your dreams be like Anna's writing, delicate, peaceful, and timeless. Good night. May you find the quietest sleep in this afterglow across 1,000 years.